Good morning, I'm Craig DeGrelli. It's Monday, February 24th, 2025, and these are your Unbiased Updates. 3 years later, the world marks the third anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. What to expect at the United Nations today, and what happens next when it comes to the three leaders, Putin, Zelensky, and Trump, as talks continue to end the war. Also, new leadership at the FBI could lead to lots of turnover. The man now tasked with overseeing dozens of field offices and his past remarks about the Bureau.
From the Straight Arrow News Studio, bringing the stories that matter to you from across the United States and around the world, these are today's Unbiased Updates.
This morning, leaders from across Europe and Canada are in Ukraine to mark 3 years of the country's war with Russia, as the Trump administration pushes for the United Nations to back its third anniversary draft resolution, rather than one crafted by Kyiv and backed by Europe. Various news outlets are reporting the United States is pushing for Ukraine to withdraw its resolution, but Ukraine has refused. Today, the United Nations General Assembly is expected to vote on both resolutions, but the Trump administration also wants the UN's more powerful Security Council to vote on its proposal. China holds the Security Council presidency this month and has scheduled to vote on the U.S. resolution for this afternoon. The biggest difference between the two resolutions is the U.S. does not demand the immediate withdrawal of Russian troops or identify Russia as the aggressor in the war. In a statement, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. has, quote, proposed a simple, historic resolution to the United Nations that's consistent with President Trump's view that the UN must return to its founding purpose to maintain international peace and security, including through the peaceful settlement of disputes, end quote. Meantime, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said he would be willing to resign from office if it meant peace in Ukraine or NATO membership. NATO membership for Ukraine was already unlikely anytime soon, but it looks even more out of reach since Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that was not realistic for a negotiated settlement to the war. The United States has begun separate peace talks with Russia to put an end to the war. U.S. officials say so far, the United States and Moscow have agreed to reestablish diplomatic ties and restart economic cooperation. On Saturday, Russia's foreign ministry said preparations for a face-to-face meeting between President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin were underway. Last week, the Trump administration's special envoy, Keith Kellogg, spent 2 days in Ukraine speaking directly with Zelensky. Turning to the Middle East, where Israel has sent tanks into the occupied West Bank for the first time in more than 2 decades, and says residents who have been evacuated will not be allowed to return. It's the latest move in Israel's Operation Iron Wall, a military campaign that launched just last month, just 2 days after the Gaza ceasefire with the terror group Hamas began. Israel's defense minister says he ordered the military to prepare for a prolonged presence in Palestinian refugee camps in the West Bank for the coming year and to prevent the return of residents and the resurgence of terrorism. Palestinian authorities called the move a dangerous escalation. The new military movement comes as the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas gets more tenuous by the day. Over the weekend, Israel was set to release more than 600 Palestinian prisoners in exchange for 6 Israelis taken hostage when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7, 2023, but it did not follow through. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said their release would be delayed until the release of the next hostages has been assured, and without the humiliating ceremonies. A senior Hamas leader has said the militant group will not take part in any negotiations to extend the ceasefire until all the prisoners who were supposed to be released Saturday have been returned. Germany's presumptive new chancellor seems to be making plans to meet with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. The Times of Israel is reporting this morning Netanyahu's office said he had a warm conversation with Friedrich Merz after his party came out on top of Germany's elections over the weekend. The news outlet said, according to Netanyahu's office, Merz would invite Netanyahu to Germany, which would go against the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant against Netanyahu. In the hours after apparently winning the election, Merz also said Europe must seek to achieve independence from the United States. The key issues of the election were the stagnation of Europe's biggest economy and pressure to curb migration in Germany. Mertz is a conservative businessman who has never held a government role before. Now he's set to lead Europe's biggest economy and most populous state after his center-right Christian Democratic Union and its sister party won about 29% of the vote, according to preliminary results. The election saw a surge in far-right support, with the Alternative for Germany coming in second with about 21% of the vote. That party has been suspected of extremism in the past. President Trump weighed in on Truth Social, saying it looks like the Conservative Party in Germany has won the very big and anticipated election. He called it a great day for Germany and the United States. What did you do last week? That's what Department of Government Efficiency Chair Elon Musk is asking federal workers. In an email sent out by the Office of Personnel Management on Saturday, Musk tasked federal employees with detailing 5 accomplishments from their previous work week. He said on his social media platform X, failure to reply would be taken as a resignation. That seems to be at odds with previous guidance from the Office of Personnel Management, which said responses to such emails were voluntary. Leaders of the Pentagon, FBI, State Department, Department of Homeland Security, and Department of Energy all instructed their staff not to reply to the email. Some said managers would handle it, while others told workers to wait until today. Saying fairness, justice, law, and order will be brought to America and quickly, President Trump has named conservative commentator Dan Bongino to serve as deputy director of the FBI. Bongino will work alongside newly confirmed FBI Director Kash Patel. The position does not need Senate confirmation. Bongino, who hosts his own podcast, is a former Secret Service agent and New York police officer and former Fox News host. Bongino has called for mass firings at the FBI. The FBI deputy director often runs bureau operations and oversees special agents that lead the 55 field offices across the country. A memo obtained by NBC News indicates the FBI Agents Association was hoping for a deputy director who was part of the bureau, as has been a long-standing tradition, one with, quote, operational expertise and experience, as well as the trust of our special agent population, end quote. Bongino is a Trump loyalist who was highly critical of the 2022 raid on President Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort, which resulted in the classified documents case. He called it an abomination and said management at the Department of Justice, as well as the FBI, should be immediately terminated. Finally this morning, baseball great Alex Rodriguez is now in the broadcast booth, but his athletic abilities are still sharp, even on a basketball court. A-Rod showed off his skill on the hardwood Sunday, sinking a half-court shot, winning $10,000 for a Bucknell University student. The 14-time All-Star, who was at the school to talk about his company Jump Platforms, took the shot during halftime of Bucknell's basketball game against Army, which, by the way, the Bison won 84-53. Now, the student that he won that $10,000 for, the young man's name is Owen. What a fine gentleman. He said he's going to take the money, give it to his parents, and help pay for his own tuition at Bucknell. And I can tell you, Bucknell is not cheap. A little bit of March Madness a couple weeks in advance. Those are your unbiased updates for this Monday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. For all of us here at Straight Arrow News, I'm Craig DeGrelli. Have a great day.